everyone, welcome back to my channel. If you're new here, my name is Erica with Memory Box Candle Co. and I make videos all about the journey of starting a candle business. And in today's video, I just kind of wanted to give you a rundown of how I personally prepare for tax season. So it is the middle of February and I should have technically had everything prepared last month, but over the past couple weeks, I've been slowly just kind of getting everything together and trying to catch up on some things that I should have been doing all year long, which is typically how it goes. But this video, I just wanted to share with you how I personally go about prepping for taxes to basically get all of my documentation needed to give to my CPA. So a CPA, if you're not aware of what that is, it is a certified public accountant. So it's basically somebody that does taxes for you, because back in February of 2021, I incorporated my business. And there's no way that I would have any clue what to do on filing my own taxes. So I pay a professional to do that, make sure everything gets done properly, correctly, and that there's no issues. So let's go ahead and get into it. So every year, my CPA will send me a form that basically tells me all of the documentation that she is going to need in order to do my taxes. So I got that about the early part of January. And the very first thing that I know I needed to do was remit my sales tax. So I technically can do this on my own by logging onto the California website to be able to remit the sales tax that I've collected throughout the year. But the very first time I tried to do it, it was kind of a headache. I had no idea what I was doing. It was very frustrating. I think it took me a couple hours to figure out. I ended up having to call somebody in customer service on the website and try to figure it out. So I just pay my CPA for her to do that for me. And my remitting sales tax, I guess you could say schedule, or I don't know what it's called, but basically I am on like a yearly remitting my taxes. So some people have to do quarterly, some businesses have to do monthly, but it's typically more, I think quarterly or annually, and I'm annually. So I basically have to save up all of that money, make sure that I'm putting that money aside so that I'm able to pay the sales tax at the end of the year. Now for sales tax, this is sales tax that's collected from sales that I have made in California. So any Shopify sales where the customer lives in California, I collect sales tax and I need to give that back to the state of California. This also applies to local vendor events. So any kind of local markets and, you know, just, I guess, yeah, local markets where I'm selling my product, and I have to collect sales tax and then be able to remit it to the state of California at the end of the year. Something else I have to do is send out 1099 forms to anybody or any business that provides a service to me. And this includes attorney fees. So I did have some attorney fees in the year of 2022. So I did have to let my CPA know how much I spent at my attorney's office, and she sent them a 1099 for basically doing business within this tax year. I actually don't know too much about why that is, or maybe obviously it has something to do with taxes, but I don't necessarily know why. I think it's just because they provided a service. So just like any kind of contracting business, maybe where you have to 1099 an employee, but they're not an employee. So I don't really know how it all works. I just basically follow the rules on what I'm supposed to do. Now here's what I did to prepare for federal taxes. And again, this was just sent to me from my CPA. I wouldn't have any idea what to send her if she didn't tell me what to send her. So if you have any questions on what you're going to be needing for tax season, just ask your CPA or ask a CPA if you don't have one, and make sure that you're able to have adequate time before April to get all of your forms and paper and documentation together so that you're actually able to do your taxes properly. It's way better than trying to guess what you're going to need. So the first thing, and this took a lot of time because again, I should have been doing this all year long. I did it halfway through the year, but then I had to continue and do basically from, I think, June or July up until December. And this was reconciling my bank accounts. So with QuickBooks. So QuickBooks is a software that I use for bookkeeping, and you're able to actually reconcile your bank accounts. Now, I technically have two bank accounts. I have my regular business bank, and I have PayPal, which is a bank because I get payments that people make on my website, and sometimes they use PayPal, so the payments will be deposited into my PayPal bank account. So what I have to do is I have to go on, look at the statements, and then go on to what QuickBooks has and make sure that they're evening out so that there's no difference, an under or an over. So you want it to zero out and make sure that all of the transactions are equal on both your bank account and on QuickBooks. And sometimes, even though QuickBooks is an amazing software and I really, really love it, it doesn't always, it's not always perfect with everything. So sometimes there are transactions that are missed, so I just have to go through, manually add them in, and it can be pretty time consuming, especially when you leave yourself 6 or 7 months when at the end of the year, when really you should be doing it every single month, because if you just reconcile 1 month at a time, you're keeping on track with everything. It's really the better way to go about it. So I highly recommend doing that. So I just had to reconcile all of those accounts and then get those reconciliation reports printed out to hand to my CPA. Something else I had to do was print out my ending bank statements for December. So on both my regular bank account as well as my PayPal bank account, I just went through on the December statements, printed them out, and I have them ready to go in my packet for my CPA. Another thing that I needed to do was get my leftover inventory value. So this is basically any kind of materials or product that you have left over at the very end. So we're talking December 31st, 2022, anything that you have left over that was not sold, that technically is not a write-off for your business because it wasn't sold within that year. So if you purchase the supplies, now again, I don't know 100%, but this is just my understanding of it. So if you purchase a supply in 2022, but you don't sell that finished good using that supplies, then that's technically not a business expense, so you can't write it off. So I had to go through, get all of the materials and all of the finished products and make sure that I had that total inventory value of how much those items cost, and then give that amount to my CPA. Now, thank goodness that I have Inventora because it was just a little form. It was like the report section or something. And I just went down, got both numbers for the basically the material cost and also the finished product cost. And I was able to go in and just add those numbers together and ready to go. I didn't have to go through and figure out the cost of everything because it was already in the software. So very, very happy to have Inventora that just made that process so much easier. The next thing I did was I made sure that I printed out and had a total for my business mileage. So again, with QuickBooks, I have the app and it's basically just connected to when I drive and any kind of mile or wherever I go, basically, it will add up in the app on my phone. And I basically just have to go in and say if it was a personal drive or a business drive. And within 2022, I really didn't have that many business miles clocked because I don't travel that far for my business, and I did a lot less trips to California Candle Supply last year than I did the previous 2 years. So yeah, but I mean, anything is nice to have a write-off for your business, so I just like to make sure that I keep track of my mileage for the year. And then the very last things that I needed to do in order to prepare for my taxes was to print out basically a bunch of forms. So W-2 forms and then copy of my end of the year payroll tax return form. So just a 940, DE9, and W-3. If you don't know what any of that is, don't worry. Most likely you watching this, you're not going to have to do those forms. Because I am an S corporation, I actually have to run payroll on myself every month. So I have to do all of these forms monthly, quarterly, and annually to be able to, make sure that I'm complying because technically I'm my own employee. So I have to treat, taxes and all that kind of stuff as if I have an employee, even though I'm technically the sole employee. But that is pretty much it. I may be forgetting something, and if I am, I apologize. But as far as when I was kind of going over everything, this is pretty much everything that I was trying to get together to give to my CPA and get my taxes done, because once this is all good and done and turned in, I don't have to worry about it for another year, and that's just the best thing. So I really hope this video helped you out. Even if you're not incorporated, even if you're just, a sole proprietor, I hope that this video gave you some insight into kind of my personal taxes for the year and what I do to prepare. And I hope it inspired you to start keeping track of certain things for this year if you're just starting to get into your business, or if you're launching soon, or if you're looking to launch later on this year. Just different things that you need to be thinking about, definitely keeping track of your expenses and definitely keeping track of your inventory. So QuickBooks, Inventora, those are my two recommendations for those two things. But with that, I think I'm going to end today's video right here. If you enjoyed today's video, make sure to leave it a big thumbs up, as well as subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Also, don't forget to follow me over on Instagram at MemoryBoxCandleCo. And I will see you in my next video.